Hi, this is Lady Lex UK, and here is another tutorial for Project Spark. And today I'm going to be looking at how to change clothing with your characters while in game. Now there's various reasons why you might want to do that in your game. Maybe your player's gone into a shop and bought himself a brand new helmet and some armour, or maybe he's found some clothes in a chest, or maybe he needs to disguise himself in order to infiltrate a guard tower or something. Whatever the reason in your game, you need to be aware that there is no way to change clothing or colouring or character features and hairstyles and things like that in code. You cannot do it. There is no way to do it. Team Dakota never gave us the facility to do that. You cannot do it. The only way to change your character's appearance is through the Character Studio, and that is only available in Create mode. So every time you see any game where they've changed the character's appearance, they've done that by creating a brand new character and deleting or making the old one invisible in some way. So what this tutorial is going to show you is colouring through code, props as clothing, and also how to transfer your character brain into your new character that you've created with your new clothing option. So we'll start off with colouring, and I have here a standard woodland villager. I've taken everything out of his brain, so the only thing that's in there is the colouring options. So if I go into his brain, so it's empty, and if you go into appearance and you go to colour properties, you'll see that there are 5 different tiles to do with colour. Colour intensity, primary, secondary, tertiary and solid. And you would imagine that one of these might control your clothing, one your skin colour, one your hair colour, whatever. So let's see what they actually do and see if they're useful for you for changing the appearance of your character during the game. So let's test and see. So I've put each of those different tiles, one in each of our character brains. So there's our default there. This is in colour intensity. Now I've set that to 0.5. Now you have to colour intensity is between 0 and 1. 0.5 is sort of halfway between, and as you can see, it's sort of made the character very pale. So that's changed his skin tone, his clothing, his hair, but not his eyebrows. Let me get close to him. You see his eyebrows are still brown for some bizarre reason. So intensity will change everything but his eyebrows, which could be a problem for you, but it really just makes everything pale. Rather than anything else. Can't really see a use for that unless of course he's jumped into a vat of flour or something. Okay, this one is primary colour, so we've changed the primary colour. This has changed his shirt but not his lapel, his trousers and his boots but not the strapping, top of the boots, the stripe on the trousers, or the belt or the buckle. And if we go around the back, the patch on the back is unchanged. It's still brown, but I think the red swirly thing is red. It's also changed the colour of his hair and his eyebrows. So this is not ideal for changing his clothing colour, because obviously you don't want to change his hair and his eyebrows as well. You just wanted to change his clothing, so that might not be as useful as you would hope. This is the secondary channel, secondary colour. This time it's changed his belt buckle and the stripes and the bottom of his shoes and also his hair. So this is the closest you're going to get to just changing his hair colour, it is going to alter his trouser stripe and his belt buckle as well, so not perfectly ideal. This is the tertiary channel. This time it hasn't touched his clothing at all his hair, or his eyebrows. It just changed the skin. Now that might be useful if you wanted him to just change his skin tone, making an Incredible Hulk or something, or making him ill, or say he's caught some nasty disease. That might be useful. or even, you know, he's got himself a tan on a sunbed. Either way, that's the tertiary channel. That changes his skin tone and doesn't touch the clothing, so that might be useful to you, but again, no good for changing clothing. And this is the solid colour, which obviously is only good if you wanted to have your character dipped into a pot of paint. Not really good for changing the colour of his clothes, because it changes everything, including his eyeballs and eyes, which is a bit freaky, really. Okay, so that's not very much use. Let's go into edit mode. So we have our third-person adventurer here. He's just an ordinary third-person adventurer brain. And what I'll do is I'll copy him. I'll go into Character Studio. Let's just change the clothing is what we want. We'll just change the colour of his chest, his shirt cloth, to red, which is what we were trying to do with the others and failed. There we go. We've changed the colour of his shirt. It's just his shirt. His hair's the same. His eyes are the same. Everything's good. Just his shirt's changed colour. That's excellent. We'll make him into a template because we don't want him into the world straight away. So here I'll go sort of like the pink, like that. And then what we've got in this is we will create in World Picker our brand new character. So when you interact with the pole, it will create that woodland peasant with the red shirt on, and it will destroy my player. This has got a third-person adventurer brain. It's an exact copy of this woodland adventurer here. So let's see what happens when we try that. And so I'll interact with the pole, and I've changed my shirt. Excellent, perfect. But there is a problem. And I will show you the problem with that code. If you just leave it at that, here is my original character. I'll go and collect some coins, and I'll pick up this sword, and I'll pick up the key, and then I can get in through the door. Excellent. Now I'm going to change my shirt. And I've lost my sword, I've lost my coins, and if I go to the door, I can't go through the door because I've also lost the key. You haven't transferred over any of his inventory, anything that he did, anything he collected while he was the other player is now lost. So you might think that you just transfer this brain into this character, but that's not going to work either, because it's not just the brain. It's the inventory, it's the equipment, it's the coin, it's the coin counter. All of those things need to be transferred over. So I'm just going to turn this character's brain off and show you one that I've made over here. Exactly the same principle. So I've got a copy of my character, and I've put some knight armour on him. We'll turn his brain on. So let's try him now. So I'm going to collect these coins. I'm going to pick up this sword. I'm going to collect the key. And then I'm going to change it to my armour. I'll interact with this post. And as you can see, the coin counter still says 3. I've got a sword in my hand. And I can go through the door. So all of that is now transferred into my new character, and it's all good. So let's see how I program that. So I've used a lot of object variables here, so this might look like a lot of code, but bear with me, it's not that complicated. So when you interact, we'll say our old player equals it. So our old player is whoever interacted with the totem pole. Okay, and then we'll say our new player will create a woodland peasant at the position of our old player. So that woodland peasant, that's the guy in the armor. Okay, so our new player is the guy in the armor, and our old player is our player that we interacted with the pole. Then we'll say our new player has the old player's brain pushed into it. New player, push brain, old player. So So the old player's brain, whoever the old player was, that brain is now pushed into the new player. And I will just show you that this character here has nothing in his brain to start with at all. There's nothing in there. Okay, so anything, that's that old player's brain has now been pushed into it. Now, if the old player has a display coin counter brain inside it, that means it's collected some coins. So you'll need that in your new player. So new player adds the brain display coin counter. Then if the new player, then the new player's coin counter variable equals the old player's coin counter variable. So you just make sure the coin counter is replicated across. So if they've collected 3 coins, that number will be transferred across so that you'll have collected 3 coins. And then for each of the old player's inventory, you give it to the new player. And for each of the old player's equipment, you equip it to the new player. And then you destroy the old player. So you've transferred over his coins, the coin counter, the coin count, his inventory items, and his equipment. And now if there is any other variables that you need that you've set in that brain, you'll need to transfer those over as well. So you have to think very carefully when you do this, what variables have been set in that other brain. Because just transferring the brain will only transfer these code lines, it won't transfer any of the data. So you have to transfer over as much of the data as you possibly can in this interaction. Okay, now there is a problem that you may come across that I need to show you. Now I have here something you see quite a lot in character brains. There's a once equip sword. Okay, so when my player is first created, there he is, he's got his sword in his hand. Now he's going to pick up this sword, and that Codian sword is going to be lying down on the floor. Okay, now we'll go and interact with the post, and he's got his Codian sword back in his hand, and the stone sword that he collected is on the floor. Now that's not ideal, we don't want that. So what you would do in that instance is you only equip the Codian sword if he doesn't have a sword. So the method I've chosen is when equipment count equals 0, then equip the sword. Otherwise it doesn't bother. And that should solve our problem. So let's see now. So he's equipped the sword. He picks up this sword, and yep, we haven't got anything lying on the ground. He's picked up the Codian sword. It's all good. So that solves that problem, and everything else is good. Right, now the other way you could change the character's clothing is you could use props. Now there is a small selection of props, mostly from the Conquer DLC, which are clothes. And you can attach them to your player as clothes. So there's a military hat there, there's a gas mask there, and a pair of boots there. Now, the way you would use this is slightly different than this. You don't need to create a new character. You can have your character is the same character. You don't have to worry about a brain. You don't have to worry about transferring brains or anything like that. You can do it in a completely different method. So we'll just turn his brain off. Right, we're going to turn his brain on. Okay, so he's wearing a gas mask. Now this is our interactive thing that gives out gas masks. So let's test it out. So we've got our guy. Now you notice he no longer has the gas mask on. He goes up to this, he'll interact, and he's got a gas mask on. And he'll go back and he'll interact, and the gas mask comes off. Now that's a way of changing clothing on a character. You basically changing the visibility of the prop. So let's have a look at this code. It's very simple. When interacted, toggle it gas mask, right? And in the gas mask itself, when the owner gas mask is true, then visible equals true, else visible equals false. So it's just a Boolean variable that you turn on and off to say whether he's wearing that gas mask or not. Now obviously in create mode you can see he's wearing it, but it's because it's invisible in create mode, the player's not going to know, and he'll react with that, and it will look as if a gas mask has mysteriously appeared on his character's face. And you can do that with this helmet and the shoes, and there's various bits of armor and backpacks and all sorts of things that you can do. And you might even be able to make your own armor and clothing using other props that you can dress your character in, and just use this method. So you can experiment with that. That might be useful. Obviously it's not these clothes, but it can be effective, and you don't have to worry about transferring brains over or anything like that, because it's the same character all the way through. But there is a problem, and I will show you. Let's turn his brain on. Now when he's standing there, those boots don't look too bad, they're fine. But when he's walking about, there we go. So I think you can see they are moving in a weird. They are attached to his foot socket, but as you can see, that looks a bit naff. So be aware with that with props. It can not look as effective as you might want. There are limitations, unfortunately, in how these things work. But hey, that's Project Spark all over, really. So I hope that's been useful to you, and help you for changing the clothes of your characters for your game. So thank you for watching, and keep sparking.